The following is based on a real event that happened to me a few days ago. No one should have to play what I did, but I should tell my story to anyone who wants to know about Kingdom Hearts. I'd gone to a local game store that sold new and second-hand PlayStation 2 games, which was good. Seeing as I wanted to stock up on some old classics I sold years ago, I found many games, including both the Kingdom Hearts games for the console. I bought both games and got back home. I checked on the disc considering that they were used. Both games were fine, but then I noticed something with Kingdom Hearts 2. Drawn on it was an oval, which I guess represented the number 0 under the title, but there was no instruction booklet. And consider that the shop owner marked the disc to show that it was pre-owned, as I'd seen this before. I started the game, and everything looked normal, and I played the game like normal until I reached the first time I could save. As I pressed save game, I noticed slot 4 had a file in it. The game had been played for 2 hours, yet it was already at the world that never was, with no money and level 99. This was strange, considering I do not have a Kingdom Hearts 2 game saved on my memory card. I tried to save over it, but the game wouldn't let me, so I just saved in slot 1. At first I was confused, but then I considered that this was just a glitch in the disc. I didn't take any notice to it since the game still ran smoothly with no hiccups. I continued on my game, but every time I saw the save or load menu, I could always see that strange file staring back at me, like it wanted me to play it. And my curiosity was growing every time I saw it. Eventually, a few days ago, I finished Kingdom Hearts 2, and usually that'll be that. I'd put the game down for a while before thinking about going to play it again. However, I was still interested in that file. It never appeared on my memory card. It was just there. Finally, I gave in. I decided to see if it was just a glitch. However, it turned out to be a saved game. At this point, I was completely baffled. Isn't the same supposed to be saved on the memory stick? I should have just turned off the PS2 and gone back to the store to check, but I felt that I was here. I felt that I was here, and I pressed on anyway. I wish I didn't. I appeared at the start of the world that never was. Everything was normal. I had Donald and Goofy in my party, and of course I pressed on battling foes that I encountered. Seemed pretty normal as I played through until I reached Roxas. As soon as this cutscene showed Roxas, the game started glitching up. The screen would shake or black out for a millisecond. Then came the fight. Everything was normal, except for the music, which played backwards, which again I thought was just another glitch. Thinking at this as just a minor glitch, I fought Roxas as usual, beating him, and getting the cutscene as normal. However, when Roxas was supposed to say, "You make a good other," there was no voiceover, and the text bubble said, "We all fall into darkness someday." And then the scene faded to black. I stared at the blank screen, waiting for something to happen for a minute or two, until some text appeared telling me to restart the console. I hesitated for a while, unsure about what was going on. I could have just stopped and forgot about playing, but I wanted to continue onwards, so I did what the game told me. When the menu came to the screen, background was black. Sora was nowhere to be seen, and there was only one option: play. Now this was there. I was thinking to myself that this was a hacked disc. What normal person would do? Would be able to take the game and back to the store and ask for a refund or replacement. However, for some reason, I wanted to see an ending. I felt I was going to get an answer if I reached the end. I pressed play. The screen cut to black. When it came back, I was back at the start of the world that never was. The music still playing backwards, and Donald and Goofy weren't in my party. When I checked, I only had one item in my inventory. The Keyblade. I continued onwards, playing through the level. No encounters from anything. No Heartless, nobodies, or even Roxas. As I reached the castle, the bridge was already formed, leading to the castle. I headed towards the castle, but I arrived somewhere completely different. I entered a hallway. I could only see the thin pavement, Sora, and a path going on and on with no end in sight, disappearing into the darkness. There was no music, no HP or MP bars, no commands, just pitch blackness with the only path and Sora on the screen. I couldn't turn back either, as I just end up running on the spot. I had to progress forward, and I continued onwards and onwards just to see if this would end. After what felt like an eternity of Sora running around, I began to notice I was coming towards something. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but the closer it came to the screen, the more I could see it. Or should I say them? I reached them. It was Donald and Goofy just floating in the air in what looked like a knocked-down state. But there wasn't any stars spinning above them. It was just them floating. Then a text bubble appeared on the bottom of the screen. It read, "Too late." I just left Sora standing there, looking at the two Disney characters floating in midair, and thought to myself, I guess by what it meant that I was too late to heal them before they were knocked out. But then, why weren't there any stars above their heads? Before I could finish with my thought, Sora then suddenly just flung back into slow motion, like when he does in HP before the screen cut to black. I looked at the black screen, shocked over at what had happened. I'd only put the controller down for a few minutes, and then I'd be killed, or at least knocked out. The screen stayed black for a few minutes until I was sent to the continue screen, where a heart floats over Sora, with the option continue only showing. I knew this was this game was hacked, but I didn't want to stop. I wanted to know if there was an end to this, so I pressed continue. I was transported to where the player first gets to control Roxas. Only this time, I was Sora. Standing in front of me was another Sora, only he looked like a Heartless with red demon-like eyes. There was no music, only a speech bubble that appeared. You cannot escape. The fact that one day everyone will die, no matter how much you try to hide, you will too. There is no reward after you served your time. We will all fall into darkness. And then we went straight into battle. The music sounded like a collection of the soundtrack all playing at once, making a demented song. Demon Sora had a lot of HP, and his attacks were devastating. Luckily, they were easy to dodge, and I had the cure spell. While battling him, the image would cut away to a black screen showing bits of text shown before the battle, taunting me as I played. I was shaken up at first by what was going on, but still, I wanted to get this to give me an ending. I noticed the more HP I took away from my opponent, parts of his body flew off. Bit by bit, I was cutting away at him, like my Keyblade was a sword. It was taking forever for me to finish off all the HP, the screen still glitching out with the text still taunting me. Now I was determined to end this. At last, I had drained his entire HP. The screen slowed down, and I waited for the cutscene. But then the screen went black for a second. It returned to how we were before the battle. Only now the heartless Sora was just ahead. Nothing happened. I couldn't move. There was no music and no text. I was also in Sora's point of view, and I couldn't change back to third person. For 5 whole minutes, nothing happened. I was just staring at a floating heartless head. Then, just as I was about to turn off the game, the heartless head charged to the screen, and the last thing I saw were those red eyes until the screen cut to black. I felt my whole body freeze up in terror as I stared at the black screen on my TV. Then the selection appeared. And this is what I wanted all along. I pressed it, wanting to know what happened. I wish I didn't. The heartless Sora faded into view, staring at me. I was giving control of him, but I had nowhere to go. I was just in a completely dark room, and I couldn't bring up the menu. The only thing I was able to see was Sora. There was no music, only the sound of crying, which I guess was supposed to be Sora. For 10 minutes, I wandered around, trying to find a way out or anything, but nothing happened, only the sound of Sora crying. Then Sora faded away, and a text appeared on the screen. You cannot escape the fact that one day everyone will die. No matter how much you try to hide, you will too. There is no reward after you've served your time. We will all fall into darkness. Then I was taken back to the menu. Everything was normal again. I went to the load to find all slots were cleared, including mine. It was like I just bought the game brand new. I just stared at the screen. I'd played the file for 2 hours. I didn't know what to think, but I knew I felt saddened by what had happened. It was like the game was not talking to Sora, but to me. It was taunting me, only to break me, and I felt empty inside. I went to the shop the next day to ask about it. The guy behind the counter said that he didn't remember who brought the game. He just sold them. I hadn't gotten off Kingdom Hearts. I bought another copy of Kingdom Hearts 2, this time not cursed, just to be safe. And I love the franchise, but I'll never forget those 2 hours. Those 2 hours of hell.